What is up, everybody? Chris, the old-ass retro gamer here. It's been a long time coming. This is the fifth and final installment in my Dreamcasting series that I started, probably in 2015, 2016. I can't remember. It's been so long. And I would do basically what Dreamcasting is. Hang on just 1 second. 8-bit! What's going on, man? So when I started Dreamcasting, it was to chronicle my trying to collect an entire US Dreamcast set, kind of like the way Captain Algebra is doing now with his Genesis stuff. And I would do maybe an update every year, once a year, depending on how much I was actually collecting for the Dreamcast. And I would say, oh, by the end of the year, I hope to have my collection. This is I think it was like some of my first videos ever on this channel. I was like, oh, so this is 2014, 2015. I was like, oh, I hope by the end of the year I'll have my complete set. Nope, that didn't happen. I didn't actually complete my set until, and this is another thing that ticks me off about myself, is I finished this Dreamcast set in December of last year, 2021. And I just keep forgetting to talk about it and do a video about actually completing my set. Because now that I have completed it, it's kind of like, okay, Dreamcast, out of mind. I don't need to worry about that anymore. So I just don't think about it anymore, which is kind of shitty since it took me so goddamn long to collect everything. And the other sad thing is that everything that I needed since the last video to complete the set was nothing but a bunch of common crap. And I was just too lazy to go and look for it because I was like, oh, I'll just find them in stores. It's common racing games and sports games. I'll find them everywhere I go. Nope. I would rarely find anything at the stores. I would rarely find anything at conventions. Online was the only way to go, and I just kept ignoring it because I didn't want to have to pay top dollar. I did find some stuff going out to like Wisconsin to hang out with its Rocket Sauce, and I did find some stuff at some conventions, but not a whole lot. It's mostly just stuff that I had to end up biting the bullet, going and getting it off eBay. So everything sounding okay, everything looking okay. So I not only have everything that I added to my collection that is an official Dreamcast game that I needed to complete my set. I also have a lot of the aftermarket type of stuff that doesn't really count towards the official set. But I want it anyway because I love the Dreamcast. Otherwise, I wouldn't have tried to get an entire set. Duh. So, shall we get into it? So I basically went to my Instagram account and went backwards through my pictures of what I was collecting week to week and took the games out of my collection as I went. So basically, this is set up like in a chronological order of picking them up according to my Instagram. So let's get started. So probably one of the two most interesting games out of all the ones I needed to complete my set is this game called Outrigger. And it has a subtitle, which is so freaking tiny. Outriggers, International Counter-Terrorism Special Force. It is written like so tiny I would probably need a magnifying glass to see it. I'm surprised with my shitastic eyesight that I could actually read that. But I never actually played this one. I do believe it's a first-person... Yeah, it's a first-person shooter. And I guess you get to pick from a bunch of different characters. But it also has a multiplayer component, which is... Was this online? Yeah, it uses the modem. So this had a multiplayer component all the way back in like 2001. Go figure. I had not played this yet. I keep on meaning to try all these games out that I bought. But then again, the last one of these Dreamcasting episodes that I did was in February of 2019. And I haven't played most of these games. I played most of the aftermarket stuff that I have. But the official stuff, not so much. Because, like I said, most of it is just sports games and racing games. So Outrigger, probably, like I said, one of two of the most exciting things I got to show off tonight. So there's that. Then there is Virtua Striker 2. This is a soccer game. Yip, yip, yahoo! I did manage to find this at the Midwest Gaming Classic, the last one that happened before the pandemic. So that was 2019. This is the only dream. I went to that convention expecting to just be able to find every single thing I was looking for. Didn't happen. Lower the brightness here a little bit. Yeah, it didn't happen. This is the only game I found in 2019. And I don't give a rat's ass about soccer. So I could honestly... I mean, it's by Sega, or it's from Sega's Sports Arcade series. Those usually, at least the arcade ones, were fun to play. I mean, like, I don't give a crap about tennis, but virtual tennis is pretty fun. A lot of the arcade versions of these games, or arcade-y types of these games, are kind of cool. But it's at the heart of the matter, it's still soccer, and I don't give a crap. I'll play it at some point, probably. Don't hold your breath. The other exciting game, most exciting game that I picked up since the last video is Unreal Tournament. This is another first-person shooter, has a big multiplayer component. I think it does have an offline. Yeah, it has 1 to 4 players locally, like if you're playing like a LAN party. The Dreamcast has 4 controller ports, so you can play 4 players at once on one console in person. But it also has an online component because it does have the modem icon on here. So, yeah, single player, multiplayer, mostly multiplayer from what I understand. Yeah, requires SegaNet to play online. Ooh. There's other games in this series. I think I have a couple for the PlayStation 2 or the Xbox. I can't remember which one. But whatever. First-person shooters. I love first-person shooters. I found that and the next couple of games while I was out with its Rocket Sauce in Wisconsin. So here's what's funny. So 2019, get this at the Midwest Gaming Classic. Didn't get this until the end of 2020 when I went to Wisconsin. So I had completely forgotten to start looking for all these Dreamcast games between April of 2019 and I do believe October of 2020. Another one I found while I was out with Rocket Sauce. I got all these, I think, at Freak Toys. I had sold them a bunch of my toys from my childhood that I found in my mother's storage space. I had like all my toys up that I was collecting in the 90s and late 80s and into maybe the early 2000s. And then I just boxed them all up, threw them in my mom's storage container, brought them all to Freak Toys, got like almost $600 for all of it. And I bought nothing but games. Yeah, this actually still has part of the Freak Toys label on it. You can see where it says the toys. Doesn't tell me how much I paid, though. Damn it. But MTV Sports Skateboarding. If it's not a Tony Hawk skateboarding game, what's the point, honestly? Everything else was just a pale imitation of that. And plus, it's from MTV. And if I remember hearing correctly, all the MTV sports games were just like these quickly shat out games to take advantage of not only the MTV license, but like when it comes to this, to ride off of Tony Hawk's coattails. It does have 14 real-life pro skaters in it. I know absolutely none of them because all of the good ones are in the Tony Hawk games, including Bam Margera. Get out of rehab, dude. Get your shit together. You know what I'm saying? Also out with Rocket Sauce, and I picked up Striker Pro 2000, another soccer game. This one's by Infogrames, which is not a good company as far as I'm concerned. They're another one that was just like randomly shitting out games for the longest time. But yeah, another soccer game. I could give two craps about it. Also picked up Surf Rocket Racers. I'm assuming that this is supposed to be kind of like a rip-off of Wave Race on the Nintendo 64, because that's exactly what it looks like. Wave Race or what's the other one? Jet Moto on the PlayStation 1. But even the cover itself just looks like absolute like trash. It's like some badly CGI rendered character. I don't really give a crap. I'll try it eventually. It looks like there's like mini games and stuff too, so it's not just straight up racing. there's like games where you got to throw yourself at like number pads and stuff like that. It looks kind of silly. So there's multiple modes. You got a championship, you got tricks and techniques, hazards and obstacles, and head-to-head. And at one point, you look like you're racing to the Titanic. Ooh. Is your jet ski the iceberg that took that sucker down? Also grabbed this one. I'm never, ever going to play. But, you need these things in order to complete your set. I'm looking at the label that's on the back here. I'm trying to see if I got this off of eBay because I think JJ Games is the name of an eBay store. But NFL Quarterback Club 2000. Anything by Acclaim when it comes to sports is trash. That's what I'm always told. Don't even bother. Well, I wouldn't have normally, but because one complete set, you got to buy this kind of stuff. And I absolutely hate football. I hate it, hate it, hate it. So this is probably never going to get played. Also, so we got here Monaco Grand Prix. This is a Formula One racing game. It doesn't look too bad, to be completely honest. Just the way like the track here looks, like it's like some weird aerial camera angle. Watching the cars, shoot around the corner is kind of neat. Apparently, it has a head-to-head mode. I'm not a big F1 racing fan at all, actually, in game form or in real life. So this does absolutely nothing for me. But I do like a good racing game as long as it's fun. There are a couple of F1 racing games that Psygnosis made for the PS1 that were kind of decent. So, I mean, eventually I will give this a shot. I don't have high hopes. It's by Ubisoft. So these next two I actually got from Captain Algebra. He asked me if for like a list of all the games I still needed to complete my set at one point. And he's like, oh, when I go out looking for games for me, if I see any of the ones that you have on your list and they're not like horrendously priced like most Dreamcast games are, I'll pick some up for you. So one day I got a text. I guess he was at a game store, and he's like, "Oh, I found these Dreamcast games that are from your list. Do you want them?" They were like 20. They were like 20 something each or whatever. And I was like, "If that's not too pricey for you, please pick them up. Let me know how much I owe you." And I PayPal'd him the money, and he sent me the games. So, what's up, Cap? Just talking about you, actually. I'm not on Wi-Fi. Why are you saying I'm on Wi-Fi? Shut the fuck up, computer. But Captain Algebra picked up for me Revolt, I guess. Another Acclaim game, but this is trying to be kind of like Mario Kart, but instead of driving in a go-kart, you're driving remote control cars. Your ears are ringing. I was talking about you. They get all hot and stuff like that, like the church is always saying when I mention them in the stream. This one actually doesn't look too bad, but I always am like weary of Acclaim games for some reason. Other than like the Mortal Kombat games, like these are just kind of like really hit or miss and mostly miss. But it doesn't look too bad, and I do have a sequel to this on, I think, the PlayStation 2. So there's that. And the other one that I got from Cap is Roadsters, another racing game. Surprise, surprise. This one does not look good. It's by Titus, and they made Superman 64, so right then and there you're in trouble. It just looks like a generic racing game, kind of like it's trying to be a more edgy version of Cruisin' USA or something like that. At least that's what the pictures remind me of. It's like, ooh, I'm driving in the car looks just like the one from Cruisin' USA, but for some reason there's like a wall of fire he's driving toward in that top picture. Whatever. Like I said, you need this stuff to finish a set. This is probably one of the only other decent games I got, and I picked these next few up when I went back to Wisconsin to hang out with Its Rocket Sauce. I think it was when I had gone in August for my birthday. And when you spend money at this Freak Toys joint, I think it's for like every $100 you spend, but Superman 64 is the best. You need to change your standards. It was like for every $100 you spend, you got like $10 credit towards a future purchase. And I'd gotten like almost $600 worth of credit there from selling all those toys from my childhood. So, I had like almost, I think I had like I'd spent like $500. I had like $50 worth of credit to spend. So, and it only lasts for about a month. So I went back to visit Rocket Sauce in September and sold some more stuff while I was there and tried to spend this credit. Turns out you can't spend all that credit at once. You can only use $10 a pop. You can only use $10 one day and $10 the next day, which is a big FU as far as I'm concerned. I don't live in the area, and I'm not going to drive out to Sheboygan every freaking day to go and spend $10 credit. But we went game hunting outside of that, and I found ECW Anarchy Rules. There's another ECW game on the Dreamcast, and I think that's called Hardcore something. American Hardcore or whatever. But yeah, wrestling game, kind of like the N64 wrestling games. Excuse me, I got the burpees. It looks okay, but for the generation that it is, it looks better than a PlayStation 1 game, and it definitely looks better than a Nintendo 64 game. Whether it is actually quality better, or of a better quality than those games, is debatable. But, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I like a good wrestling game now and then. Also, while I was there, I upgraded this game, Sega Sports NBA 2K2. I had the greatest hits version. When I first got into collecting, I hit up, this is like 2013, end of 2013, beginning of 2014. I hit up I think it's a Salvation Army that's right by my work. And they had a whole crap load of these like greatest hits Dreamcast sports games. And I didn't care at the time. I was just like, I need to get games in my collection. I'll just buy whatever I find. And I found like all these like sports games for the Dreamcast in the greatest hits form, and I didn't really give a shit. Now I do. I do not want those in my collection. I don't have any more left. I got rid of them all and replaced them with the Black Label ones. So this is an upgrade. I hear that these official Sega sports games are actually not too shabby, but if I actually like sports, I might actually give a crap. I've brought that up multiple times tonight, but it doesn't look terrible for like a game of this generation, but I'm not a basketball fan, so it doesn't really do much. Also found Ducati World Racing Challenge. It's a motorcycle racing game. Yippee yahoo, another racing game that I needed. Yay. Can you tell how excited I am? It looks okay, but it's another Acclaim joint. I'm curious. I need to go through my entire Dreamcast collection and pick out exactly how many games are from Acclaim. Because between them and Capcom, it's like that's all the stuff that got released for this console was stuff by Sega, Acclaim, and Capcom. And then the last one I picked up when I was out with Rocket Sauce that day was I also upgraded my copy of Virtua Tennis. I had the greatest hits version of this also. Only thing that kind of stank about this was the jewel case. Maybe that game will make you a basketball fan. I seriously doubt it. The case for this was taped shut at whatever store it was we found this at. So I couldn't get a look at the disc. I didn't really care because this isn't a game I'm going to be popping open to play all the time. It turns out that the manual is empty. I just have the cover page, and someone scooped out the entire inside. It's not like I really need the manual to play this game. I used to play this in the arcade all the time, so I'm familiar with it. But that's kind of shitty. So if there's one game that's incomplete in my collection, it's frickin' Virtua Tennis. Okay. But it's actually pretty fun, like, arcadey tennis game. I never thought in a million years I would actually be looking forward to playing a tennis game in the arcade. But every time my friends and I would go to this one particular movie theater that was in the Western Burbs, there was a GameWorks in the same plaza, and we'd go in there before the movie would start, probably eat there a lot of times, maybe get a drink, and play arcade games. And I would always head for Virtua Tennis for some reason because it was just super fun to play. The home port's pretty good too, if I remember correctly. I needed this to complete the set, but I hear it is absolute doo-doo. But that is South Park Rally. You guys know me in the license games, so I'm surprised I did not own this sooner. This and Chef's Love Shack on the Dreamcast are incredibly hard to find for some reason. I luckily found Chef's Love Shack years ago and got that out of the way because nowadays it's actually kind of an expensive game. At least the last time I checked. So this is probably in November or December of last year. South Park Rally is a South Park kart racing game, and from what I am told, it is absolute garbage. Everything about it just sucks. and like the lines that are repeated over and over again from the characters while you're racing just make you want to kill somebody. So I absolutely had to have this just so I could finish the set, but whatever. But at least you get to play as Terrence and Phillip. Which Dreamcast game is the rarest? Shit. Maybe The Ring? I want to say the most expensive is probably still Cannon Spike, because that was like I think the last official game that came out for the Dreamcast. And I found that at my local video store or video game, like the retro store that I used to go to, the one that shut down in 2019. I got it there like 2018, I think, and I had traded in a bunch of stuff and was walking around the store trying to look for something to spend the credit on, and they had that in their expensive case, and I was like, I'll use all that credit to buy that sucker, because that thing is just prohibitively expensive. I think it was like $200, but this is like in 2018. Like I said, all flippin' racing games and shit. Like F355 Challenge, Passione Rosa, whatever. I think it's a Ferrari racing game. Whatever. Racing all them red cars, I guess, and you're passionate about it. Sure, why not? Another Acclaim joint. By the way, this was Acclaim too. Every single game I needed tonight was from Acclaim. Metropolis Street Racer, or MSR for short, whatevs. Another racing game. This one I hear is actually not too bad because it actually got a bunch of sequels on the PlayStation 2, I think it was. But yeah, it looks decent here. I know that the ones on the PlayStation 2 are way better. I've heard good things about them. They had a really good head-to-head component, from what I understand. I think this does as well. Yeah, this has modem on the back. Yep, 1 to 2 players locally and online. Sure, why not? Another Acclaim one. Jeremy McGrath, Supercross 2000. Yay. So everyone, like I said, when I was talking about that MTV skateboarding game, Cannon Spike is actually really, really good. I wouldn't say it's worth $200, but it's a Capcom joint, and it's kind of like a top-down twin-stick shooter, and you can unlock all these other characters from other Capcom games like Jill Valentine and what was it? It's like Jill Valentine and that dude from the Street Fighter games with the weird P curl, the blonde P curl. I can't remember what his name is, but it's actually really, really fun. This is like playing Tony Hawk, but you're on a motorcycle. Oh no, I'm thinking of the BMX one. Matt Hoffman, Jeremy McGrath. Oh, this is just another racing game that you're on a motorcycle. You're on a motocross bike. Yay. Like I said, I haven't played these, but it has a head-to-head component. Whatevs. Another Acclaim joint. Another racing game. F1 World Grand Prix. Another F1 racing game. This one does not look exciting at all. Yay. Like I said, all this crap I needed to complete the set. It's just like common crap, and I was just too lazy to go looking for it. I could have been finished with this set. Shit. The last Dreamcasting video I did was in February of 2019. I probably could have finished it by the end of 2019 if I really put any effort into it, but I didn't. Because this is all shit. And this would have been before COVID, so the prices wouldn't have been as crazy as they are now. So Razor, Freestyle, Scooter. So I'm going to say these last 3 games I have here were the last 3 I bought all at once. And I was like, I'm done. That's it. Holla. Razor, Freestyle, Scooter. It's another Tony Hawk ripoff, but you're on a freaking scooter. Looks like absolute shit. I think this is a PlayStation 1 port. I don't even think this has like a good soundtrack like the Tony Hawk games does, because there's nothing written on the back here about it. Whatever. Customize your ride with different colors for scooters. Ooh, I can customize the color of my scooter. Oh my god, this is the greatest game ever. Somebody just stop oh. Sports Jam. This is like one of the most common games out there, and I needed it. So it's basically just a bunch of like sports mini games. I think according to this, it looks like there's 12. I can't really tell because the pictures are so tiny and dark. I can read it better here. Football, baseball, basketball, hockey, tennis, soccer, golf, and cycling. Oh, can you sense the excitement? Yeah, this is awful. It looks like, well, yeah, 12 sports games in one, and it's like mini game versions of it, and it's not like a full experience. Whatever. Like I said, I just needed all the trash. I got all the good games, like the ones that are like must-haves. I got those like years and years and years ago when they were dirt cheap. And I got lucky because now I just need this trash, like Red Dog. This was the last game I bought to complete the set. And it is a racing game where you're on like this weird psychedelic, apocalyptic. Where did I get Where do I get psychedelic from apocalyptic? It's like this post-apocalyptic Mad Max type world, and you're racing, and there's actually fighting because you have like two giant cannons on your four-wheeler, and it doesn't look too bad. Crave actually made some decent games for the Dreamcast, so this one is actually one I would probably pop into play because it actually does not look too bad. But it was, like I said, the last game I bought. And that was all I needed to complete my flippin' set. This many games. Since February of 2019, these are all the games I needed. And that's it. They both end in ick. Yeah, I guess. Or it could just be that I'm extremely flippin' tired. Okay, so now we're going to go into the aftermarket stuff that does not count towards the official like set. This is all stuff that's come out after the Dreamcast was dead, and people just refuse to let it die, and they keep on making new games for it. And I'm actually really happy that they do because a lot of these are pretty effing cool. So we have a port of FX Unit Yuki. So this is Sarumaru's old 8-bit, maybe not 8-bit, maybe 16-bit platformer. Like that, it's all about nostalgia for old TurboGrafx 16 games. And I bought this originally. Well, I helped back it on Patreon. It was not Patreon. It was a Kickstarter. I helped to back it so I can get a copy of the TurboGrafx CD version. But I don't like whipping out the Turbo Duo that I have because it's kind of finicky. And my Dreamcast was working pretty good at the time. So I said, you know what? I'll just buy the Dreamcast version because, number one, it'll probably run smoother, run faster. And the graphics will probably be a little bit better. And haven't played it yet. It's still sealed. But I did play the one that's on the Turbo Duo or the Turbo CD. And it's a very fun game. Okay. So if you go on Etsy at any given time and just type in Dreamcast, you will find lots of people. The thing that really killed the Dreamcast was the pirating. So it turned out that the copy protection on the discs was pretty piss poor. And you could basically just burn games. You could rip a game onto your computer really easily, burn it onto a CDR, and it'll play on a Dreamcast with no problem. And that's what killed the console. People would go to the store, to the video store, rent a game, copy it, burn it, sell copies to their friends, whatever. That's what killed this console. That's why it only lasted for like 2 years. I never did any of that kind of stuff. But in the modern day and age, that makes it really easy to put like homebrews on the Dreamcast for people to buy. And that's why I said go to Etsy and type in Dreamcast and you'll see some pretty rad stuff floating around. The Beats of Rage series, the controller is not ass. I'm sorry. I like the controller. I think it fits very well in my hand. The one thing I don't like is that cable comes out the bottom. But you buy an extension for it and it's okay. But I like the way I can grip it like I get a really good handhold on it. So one day I was at work and I was bored and I was sitting there going like, I want to see if there's this one specific not homebrew, but like a port. There's a guy on Instagram. I think his name is Evil Jared. I know he's a friend of Radical Reggie's. He puts like these really high quality reproductions for the Dreamcast together, randomly. Usually something really cool when I don't have money to spend on it. But he had done a port of Rise of the Triad. That was a PC first-person shooter that I always wanted to play. He had ported it to the Dreamcast and made like 30 copies of it, and it was like first come, first serve. Of course, when he does that, I have no money to spend on it, so I missed out completely. So I was hoping that somebody else was like, well, if he could do it, I can do it, and I'd find it on Etsy. No, I did not. Beats of Rage is somebody takes the Streets of Rage 2 fighting engine and like throws other characters in it. So there's like one that has Resident Evil characters, and you'll see it's like Resident Evil Beats of Rage. I have a bunch of them. I have one of them right here. No, I have two of them right here. But it's like random things. Like people just take like this fighting engine and just throw random characters in it and make like a new game out of it. And it's not always like you're playing a Streets of Rage game. It's just like they use the fighting engine and make like their own backgrounds, their own character models and whatever. So one of them that I got off of this one dude on Etsy was this Alien versus Predator Aftermath game. And you can see Beats of Rage at the bottom here. And basically what this is like the arcade Alien versus Predator game, but a brand new game was made out of all the assets from it. And it is really short. It's probably, I think it's like 3 levels, and then you're already at the Alien Queen. It has unlimited continues. So when I put this in to see if it just worked, I ended up beating it like in one night. I ended up beating it like 3 times that night because I wanted to beat it with all the different characters, because you have 2 different Predator characters you can play as and 2 different human like Marines that you can play as. You can kind of see them up here. And the gameplay itself is strictly beat 'em up. It's just like the arcade, but really fast paced. The music is really cool. It has some digitized photos from the games or the movies in it and stuff like that. I really liked it, even though it's super short, but it didn't stop me from playing it 3 times in the same night. I really liked it. And the other one I got 4 from this one guy at once, because he was selling these for I think $25 each, which for what this is, I got a copy of HalfLife. HalfLife is a first-person shooter. It's like one of the first like first-person story shooters where it's all about the story and like the first-person shooting stuff is secondary, kind of like Halo and all that. That was released for PC, and it was super popular, and there was an actual port being developed for the Dreamcast. And I really always thought that if this actually got released, I think the Dreamcast would have lasted a little bit longer, because if you didn't have a PC, you could have had this and you're good. This would have been a system seller as far as I can tell, or as far as I remember thinking back then. Oh, I got to get a new case. This is like busted up. Every single one of these cases I got from this dude is busted up. But they actually did finish the port. It just never got released. And the Dreamcast like died before the port got released. So somebody found the ROM, and the guy that I bought these from had dumped it onto a disc, and I played it for a little while, and there's a lot of loading in it, just like in the version that's on the PlayStation 2, where it's like in the beginning when you're in that train car and you're going to work, it like every like 45 seconds it stops to load a little bit, and then it stops to load a little bit, and it stops to load a little bit. It's kind of annoying, but this isn't being played on a high-end PC. This is being played on a Dreamcast from 1999, so... But it still works, and it's pretty cool. Also got this one called Mortal Kombat Conquest. It's another Beats of Rage joint. I had to get it because fucking Mortal Kombat, bitches. This is not a one-on-one fighting game. This is a beat-em-up, kind of like Shaolin Monks was on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, with all the Mortal Kombat assets from Mortal Kombat 3. So you can kind of see it at the bottom. You got like oh shit. There you go. You got like Cyrax and Sector and Sindel and a whole bunch of other characters all fighting in the same screen. And I was like, I saw this on that list that guy had for sale, and I was just like, Bodar! Bad loading times. Yeah, it was kind of rough when I was trying it out that night, but at least it worked, The sad thing about this one is it didn't work. What is this called? The Combat Pavilion? Yeah, so out of all the games I got from this guy, this is the one that didn't work. The one that I wanted to play the most is the one that didn't work. I don't know if it's a problem with the disc or I don't know, because you can see it's like one of those blue CDRs. Doesn't have any marks or anything on it. The Dreamcast just will not recognize it. And then by the time I finally got around to trying these out, I should have tried them out when they fucking first showed up, but I had a Dreamcast that didn't work when I got them because I traded up my TV for a 4K one. That Dreamcast was still set to use the VGA cable as the video output, And since I got rid of my TV with the VGA plug on the back, I couldn't switch it back. So I had no Dreamcast to use. So I had to wait till I got a new Dreamcast, which was when I went to Minnesota in November. And I bought one when I was out there with Church and hanging out with Church and Cardboard Zero. And I finally tried this. And when I went to go and talk to the guy to say, hey, this thing I bought from you doesn't work, he had closed down his store. So I'm stuck with a lemon right here. I'm trying to find another person that has this for sale. Has not happened yet, but I'm holding on to it until I can find one. I'll just ask the guy, sell me the disc. I have everything else. Just sell me the disc. The other big one other than HalfLife I got from this guy, and I tried this one out too, and it works just fine, is Propeller Arena. This is another official Sega game that was coming out for the Dreamcast, and it got canceled because the Dreamcast got discontinued. So it never got a chance to be released. And what this is Crazy Taxi with an airplane. It is absolutely fun. It is fun as hell. It is nuts. It is a weird idea, but I loved it. I ended up sitting there and playing this for about an hour that night when I was testing these out, and I was having a blast. It is super sad that this never got a real release before the Dreamcast snuffed it. So I'm glad that I actually have a physical copy because, like I said, this was completely finished and ready to go. It just never got released because the Dreamcast, bit the dust. You see it was developed by AM2, which is like the big arcade developer for Sega. So it's sad that never got released. So then there's that guy that I was talking about, Evil Jared, who released that Rise of the Triad port on the Dreamcast. I finally caught one sell-through of his, and that is for this game called Dolphin Blue, which is I think this came out in Japan for the Dreamcast, but it never came out over here. And this is a localized version of it, and he gave it like a real nice presentation. Like, it doesn't look like a CDR. It looks like a real disc. It has a real nice label on it. It has a full booklet instead of just a sheet of paper as the manual. Glossy as hell. Has all the instructions on how to play this damn game. Yep. And it is a side-scrolling shmup or side-scrolling shooter, kind of like, what is it, like Metal Slug, I guess? And I really was excited to play it, but the only problem is my Dreamcast is one of the models that this does not want to work on. It works, but I mean, it loads the game, but it never wants to let you actually play it. So there's like a trick I got to do in order to get it to work. No, I'm not completing anything else. It took me long enough to do this. I was saying back in like 2014 I was going to complete it, and it took me until 2021. No, I'm good. Right now, the only things I'm looking for game-wise are just games that I had in my collection back when I was, a kid, when these games are first relevant, or games that I've always wanted to add to my collection that I always wanted to play. But I'm not looking for anything specific right now. Well, other than Dragon or Demon's Crest. And now we come to the games that I picked up. I picked this up at the Midwest Gaming Classic last year. Excuse me, the one that took place in November. What's the name of it? Pixelheart had a table there. Pixelheart is an online, like, not quite limited run. They don't have like limited runs. They basically sell aftermarket games. Like, I've bought like an aftermarket Nintendo game. I bought a bunch of Dreamcast stuff. They release new stuff too. I bought stuff for the Switch and the PS4 through them, but they do Dreamcast stuff. And like I said, NES games. They have a couple of NES games, and I think one Super Nintendo game, maybe one Genesis game. So at the Midwest Gaming Classic, they had a table, and I was looking through the stuff they had, and I picked up a copy of Armed 7. This is a horizontally scrolling shmup, outer space, and it looks flippin' awesome. I almost bought another game I will talk about in a minute. But yeah, this looks pretty awesome. It's on a collection for the Switch as well, and I think I bought the Switch collection. And this is on it, so I can either play the Dreamcast version. The reason I haven't opened this is because I think I played it on the Switch, and I was like, I don't need to open that just yet. And while I was there, I also picked up a copy of Redux Dark Matters? For some reason, this comes in a Blu-ray or a DVD case. This was, I do believe, one of the first big aftermarket Dreamcast games that came out like long after the console was a thing. And for some reason, HughCast was like one of those retailers online that was like, hey, we made a new Dreamcast game. You want to play it? $50. It's another horizontally scrolling shmup. And from what I understand, it's a dang good one. There's like 3 versions of this game out there, and I think Dark Matters is the final revision. So they had this at that Pixelheart table, even though they did not make this or release it. I think they bought the rights to sell it now from HughCast or whatever. So I bought one of their copies. I was hoping I could find a copy of it. If I did ever find a copy of it, it would be a jewel case one, not the DVD, but I got stuck with that, so whatevs. This game, I'm glad I did not buy when I was at the Midwest Gaming Classic. I had it in my hand, and I almost bought it. Turns out that I had totally forgotten that I had placed an order with Pixelheart online like a year earlier, and this game was on that order, and the only reason that I hadn't gotten it for a year was because I decided to go with that whole, like, yeah, ship everything at once, and they were still waiting on one specific game in that order to get completed and released before they could ship everything to me. And that was Wallachia, the Castlevania, like, what is it? Not Circle of the Night, the Symphony of the Night style game that came out for the Switch. They had a PS4 port coming, and I had to wait for that PS4 port to get finished before I could get any of the other games in that order, and Wolf Flame was one of them. And I had this in my hand at the Midwest Gaming Classic in 2021, and I almost bought it, but I put it back down, thank goodness, because then I would have double dipped, and I would have been super pissed at myself for not paying attention or remember what the hell I'm spending my money on. But yes, you guessed it, that's another shmup, but this one is vertically scrolling. Ooh, change up. It's kind of funny that when, like, the Dreamcast was a thing, when it was relevant, like from 99 to 2001, it had a lot of fighting games, it had a lot of racing games, it has a lot of really crappy sports games. I farted. I hope you didn't hear that. Aftermarket games are all shmups. There were barely any shmups available for it when it was relevant, and after the fact, that's all it gets. Yeah, I have it. I did finally get it in the mail because I wouldn't have been holding Wolflame in my hand if I didn't finally get my copy. One of the aftermarket companies that has been consistently releasing games for at least the past like 3 or 4 years is Josh Prodd. Every couple of months they release a new Dreamcast game. A lot of them are ports from either Neo Geo CD games. I had Indian food earlier, dude, so yeah, I'm a little gassy. I'll avoid having the chicken makhani before I come into your car, okay? Yeah, they released like ports of Neo Geo CD games and some CD-based PC games that also got released on the PlayStation 1. I don't think they're ports of the PS1 versions. I think they're actually ports of the PC. Like, they have Fade to Black, which is the sequel to Flashback. They have Flashback. I want to get those. I definitely want to get them. But one of the ones I did pick up is this one called Ganryu, which is this is a one-on-one fighting game? Or is this the beat 'em up? I think this is a beat 'em up. Yeah, I think Ganryu is a beat 'em up. I can't really tell from the pictures on the back. They're too tiny. But it's just got a sequel on the Switch, I think, and the PS4/5. I've seen pictures of Ganryu 2 showing up online a lot lately. You can see Josh Prodd in the jewel case up here. There's a lot of stuff they released. They have a presence in one specific game store in New York that you can go to. And from what I understand, if you order a Josh Prodd game from eBay, it's from that New York store when you get it. Like, they're the online retailer for it, which is kind of cool. Haven't played that yet. It's still unopened. This one is going to hurt me to talk about because I don't want to badmouth anybody. But I got a game from John Riggs. Rigged Games. He made a game called Yeah Yeah Beavis 2. And this came out, I think, on the NES. They released an NES cart with this on it, and also the Dreamcast one. I figured I wanted to get another aftermarket Dreamcast game because why the hell not? I love my Dreamcast. And the thing about this was the day it showed up, I was just like, hey, I already got my Dreamcast hooked up. Let's try this bitch out. And I did not like it. Like, at all. It is like playing an Atari 2600 game on the Dreamcast. It is not that good. So there's like these 2 undead priest characters. Each one has a different attack. One of them shoots like a little bit of electricity out of his hands, and I cannot remember what the other one does. and you're basically just clearing waves of enemies that come at you. And there's like 3 or 4 different types. Each one has a different type of attack, and like the levels just cycle. There's like I think 10 levels per. There's like 10 stages per level, and then it switches. It recycles them again, but the colors change. Everything's a little bit more difficult in the next set of 10 levels. And you just keep going and going and going and going. I went to like the 30th level or whatever, and I was like, why am I still playing this? I think there's like 99 levels in here or something like that. I mean, I love Rigged. I love John Riggs to death. I mean, you think he's a cool guy, but this did not do it for me. Like, at all. I was just like, I was expecting a lot. And where's part 1? Long ago, there was a legend of a new video game that had no screenshots, no reviews, no advertisements, nothing. Just a quick blurb in the back of some magazine saying it was for sale. It was never released. This is the sequel to that mythical game. Answered my question right there. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't recommend spending your money on it unless you want to give Riggs some money. But yeah, it's like NES and Dreamcast. Like I said, it's really easy to make burned games on the Dreamcast, which is probably what did it. You know, they just dumped the ROM onto a CDR. But the big aftermarket thing that I got had a little bit of drama attached to it somehow. I don't know. I still haven't opened it. I could open it right now and do an unboxing if y'all like. The one of you that's watching. So, where did I get this from? Game Fairy is another one of these online, like, I don't know if it's considered like a limited run-y type of company or whatever, but they release like smaller games, and they released this really big. I remember it had like a lot of hype attached to it too, because Adam Koralik was like talking this up on his channel for a long time. And because of Adam Koralik, I was like, maybe I should go take a look at it. Unboxing. And this is called The Texorcist, the story of Ray Bibia or whatever. And it comes in like a double CD jewel case and all that. And this really cool like plastic outer slip. I'll open it up right now, see what's inside. Ooh. Ooh, what's happening? Ooh. Okay, so yeah, it's this hard plastic case that it slips into. That's pretty cool, I must admit. There's the game. I have... That's funny. I have the 144th game out of 666. Ooh, satanic. It looks like it also comes with the soundtrack by Dust or Gust. Lust? I don't know. I can't read it. It's in, you know, like death metal bands have like the most overly elaborate fonts that they use on their album covers, and it's like to the point where you can't read it. At the bottom there. Gust, I think that says. Gust. I'll listen to it now that it's open. I got the soundtrack out. Whatever. And the game itself, right there, The Texorcist, got a manual. Take a look. So what the game is, from what I remember, because it, like I said, you just watched me open it. I've never played it before. It's like an adventure game, like The Legend of Zelda, but you play as an exorcist, and whenever you have to exorcise somebody, it's like you have to use the keyboard, the Dreamcast keyboard, to type out the spells or the dispels that you're using to get the spirit out of the person. Comic Sans, yeah. So that just sounded really fun, like something that actually utilizes the keyboard for the Dreamcast. I have Typing of the Dead, which is as silly as the concept of taking House of the Dead, and instead of using a gun, you're using a keyboard, and you actually see your characters running through the game with a keyboard attached to their chest, and they're like typing stuff to kill the zombies. As dumb as that sounds, it is super fun. But I had to get this because it just sounded like such a unique type of game. But then, like I said, there was some drama attached to it. So I want to say like eight or 9 months after buying it, I get an email. Typing the Dead. Actually, it is super fun, and like it's. I used to have the keyboard back in the day because I used to use my Dreamcast as my online web surfing. That was what I used to surf the web, was my Dreamcast. So, what's up, Tim? How's it going? So I only had that one game, and I played, what is it, Phantasy Star Online, the first version of Phantasy Star Online. I played that online for a month, and that was it for the keyboard. The keyboard was basically just getting used to surf the web. I wish I had bought Typing of the Dead back then, because that keyboard would have been getting a ton of use back in the day, because I would have probably played that game nonstop all the time because it is super fun. So turns out that there was like a flaw in the disc, the game disc, and a bunch of people had bought this and were complaining, and like nothing was being done for like 8 or 9 months. And then finally I got an email. I knew nothing about it because I wasn't really paying much attention to the whole scenario. And I got an email out of nowhere from Game Fair, and they're like, oh, if you still have your copy of the game and you still have your receipt, we'll send you like a replacement game disc that has the bug fix in it. And I was like, oh, and basically the email said like, you complained about it endlessly. Here it is. You want it or not? That was kind of what the email was. So I just said, well, yeah, I would like a game that works properly. So even though I haven't experienced this bug myself, I said, send it to me. So I got this exercised version of the Texorcist in the mail like a month later. And it just comes in like a little paper cardboard slip. And they want you to use this to replace the game that's inside the case. But I'm not going to. I'm going to keep this because that's just pretty cool that I got the busted game and I got the complete game side by side. So there is that. And then the one thing that I forgot to bring with me was the biggest thing of all. I'll be right back. So I had mentioned that I was not able to use my Dreamcast for the longest time. I had like my original one that I had bought back in 1999, the white one. It hadn't yellowed or anything like that. It still looked brand new, played perfectly. But the TV I had a VGA port on the back, and the Dreamcast was one of those early adopters of like sort of HD, where you could use the VGA hookup on the back of the console, plug it into a monitor or a TV that had the plug, and you got some goddamn beautiful graphics out of that thing. It was like close to being HD. It was sharp. Even my ex was like, we were playing, was it Walt Disney Magical Kingdom Racing or whatever? It's like the Disney kart racing game for the Dreamcast. And she was like, this looks so good for a console that was like, died in 2001. And I was like, yeah, well, the VGA actually cleaned it up a lot. What's up? What's up, Peter? You're at a show between bands. Oh, man. Hi, Peter. And then when I got rid of that television, I forgot to switch the video inputs in the home screen page inside. When you first boot up the Dreamcast, back to using the yellow, red, and white cable thing, the component or composite or whatever it is. So I basically made my Dreamcast unusable because it would not output any video at all, no matter what I did. I bought these adapters for the VGA that would go like from VGA to HDMI. Nothing worked. I bought like 3 different ones. None of them worked. So I'm like, I guess I'm getting a freaking new Dreamcast at some point. So I didn't really go to Minnesota thinking I was going to come home with a fucking new Dreamcast, but went to Minnesota in November to hang out with Church, the Game Grinder, and Cardboard Zero, his buddy Justin. And Justin works at a game shop out there, I think on the weekends for like a second job. And they wanted to take me there because part of the weekend was we're going to take me to a bunch of the game stores they have out there. Didn't really find much at any of them, but Justin was like, hey, you were talking like in one of your videos that you were looking for a new Dreamcast. We have a Sega Sports Dreamcast at the store, and I'm pretty sure since, we know each other, I can get my boss to come down on the price a little bit. And I was like, I kind of only brought a certain amount of money with me. I was on a budget. I didn't want to blow like a big wad of money on a freaking console and then have to transport it back via airplane to my home, because the TSA is known for busting shit sometimes and going through people's suitcases and whatever, and then not paying you for what they break. So I was kind of like, no, I'm good. Leave it. Well, I'm just going to focus on games, if anything, because they're easy to store in my suitcase or whatever. So since we were going around and all that, and I wasn't really finding anything to buy, I found some stuff, but I'm like, I didn't find nearly the kind of stuff that they were making out was available. Like, they're like, oh, these stores out here are so good. And I was like, all right. So on second thought, I was like, well, since I'm not really spending a whole lot of money on games, how about I pick up that Dreamcast? So we went over to the store. I had to PayPal the money to the guy because he didn't want to. I think he was selling it like under the table or something. So I PayPal'd him the money from the store. He handed it over to me over the counter, and I got a Sega Sports Dreamcast with 2 black controllers. I already had 1 black controller I found at a store somewhere, so now I have 3 cables, hookups, everything. And the thing with this was the moment I got home from Minnesota, I plugged this in and I played it all night long. That's when I tested out those games I got off of Etsy and all this kind of stuff. I was like, oh, Dreamcast, I have missed you. Mwah. And I played shit all night. I beat that Aliens game. I played Propeller Arena. I played a little bit of HalfLife. I played Beavis, all this stuff. And I was like having a glass. I was having a glass of wine, maybe a glass of beer. I was having a blast. God, I can't flip and talk, man. It's a little dusty. I haven't used it in about a month. But yeah, I was super thrilled to finally get. I mean, I've always wanted the Sega Sports one, not because it's a sports model, but because it's black and it fits in with all the other consoles I have. Now that I have the PS5, just completely threw off the whole thing, man. It does. It looks like a tiny Saturn. It just doesn't have the cartridge port in the back. But yeah, I'm super stoked that I have this now. It works better than the one that I did. Justin said that they had taken it apart and cleaned it up, and I don't think they replaced the laser, but they cleaned up the mechanism that runs the laser and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I got a good deal on it. I think I paid just slightly over $125 for it. And when I went to my new local retro game store, which is Video Games Then and Now, and they had one of these for sale, the guy was asking like $300 for it. And I was like, oh, well, I got a deal. So, yay. I still have that old 1999 Dreamcast that I bought, the white one. I still have that in the other room. It's just like as a showpiece. I'm like, hey, this is still my OG Dreamcast that I bought back in the day. Like one of the few consoles that I still have. That's the original one that I bought when it was first released. And also one of 2 consoles that I ever bought on day one. The other one was the Nintendo 64, and I regretted that immediately. Dreamcast, I did not. So, yeah, that's that. Mega Pint. You need to pick up a sound. I love my Dreamcast. Just beware. Lots of racing games. Lots of sports games. Lots of hidden gems or diamonds in the rough as well. I intend to make a diamond in the rough video for the Dreamcast because there is a lot of really cool stuff that a lot of people don't pay attention to when it comes to this console because, like I said, everyone seems to think it's just nothing but racing games and sports games. Watching my stream tonight would definitely reinforce that belief because I pretty much had nothing but sports games and racing games, but that's because that was the trash I needed in order to finish off this damn collection. A lot of the really good stuff I picked up years ago, like I said, and they are kind of fantastic. And like I said, it has a great aftermarket presence, all this like new stuff coming out all the time. I'm hoping to find some more stuff, like aftermarket stuff, when I'm at Mo GameCon at the end of the month with Captain Algebra and Peter and Do You Nerd and all that. That's going to be super fun, and I hope I can find some really neat stuff. So that is it. The final episode of Dreamcasting. From now on, if I do buy any Dreamcast stuff, it'll just be mixed in with the regular recent pickup streams that I do, because these videos have just been so I can catalog the collection of the entire US set. Now that that's done and over with, everything else is just gravy extra, so it doesn't need its own Dreamcasting episode, so I can just start showing off this stuff in regular episodes of the recent pickups. So that's it for tonight. I will say, though, I was talking this over with... Who did I bring it up with? I think I mentioned it to Peter. Was it Peter? No, it was Nintendo. Or Nintendo. Nintendo, I was talking to him, and I was like, I'm seriously considering doing the video game collection series again. I think in 2019, I started it, or I went through all of my consoles and did streams talking about the games I had in my collection that were not only so I had some extra content for the channel because I wasn't doing a whole lot of edited stuff. I was doing it so I had like a video log of everything I have in my collection just in case something happened, like I got robbed or something, or there was a fire, and I could be like, hey, insurance people, this is what I have. I have a video of it online. So because since 2019, I've added a lot to my collection. I've subtracted a lot from my collection. I've gotten rid of some stuff. So maybe it's a good time to update those videos and start over from the beginning. So I was talking it over with Nintendo, and he was like, yeah, dude. He goes, I loved watching those and hearing you talk about like the stories of, like when you first played them back in the day and all the stories about collecting them again and all that. So I'm thinking starting next week, I'm going to bring back the collection videos. Sad thing is, next week I start a new shift at work, a later shift, and I probably won't be able to start the new videos until probably 8 o'clock at night, which is, I know, a little bit late, but for me it won't be because I'm going to be working later than usual, which kind of stinks, but I got a raise, so I can't complain. So I'm thinking on Thursdays again is going to be the new video game collection stream night once again. So if I decide that I'm going to start doing that again, I'll start next Thursday, starting off with the Atari 2600 and all that. So maybe I'll see you guys there. It'll be really cool. I enjoyed doing those back in 2019, and I'll go through my games and my movies like I did last time too, since my movie collection just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I'm running out of space. God damn it. A raise means more money from mobile game con. Well, turns out I was worried that the only money I was going to have to spend is my Facebook money. Apparently, I signed up for a payout for a lawsuit that was going on. I'm assuming one of my friends told me about it, and I signed up for, like, just in case there was a settlement in this lawsuit that had to do with the facial recognition software that Facebook was using, and it was doing things without our permission, that eventually we get a payout. Well, it turns out like not a lot of people actually signed up for it. And more money, more con. Yeah. Not a lot of people signed up for it. So I think they were originally thinking that if as many people signed up for it as they thought, that everyone would be getting like a $5 check. I got like a $300 check. Out of nowhere. I opened up my mail one day and there's a $300 check from Facebook in there. I was like, hell, what? Huh? Well, I got money from Old GameCon now. And I was going to finish selling off my albums. And I was like, okay, so that'll be my money. I'll have my Facebook check, and I'll have whatever money I get from selling the rest of my video game vinyl. And, well, that'll be good. Turns out that I'm going to have an extra paycheck this month. So I have an entire paycheck to mess with at Mo Game Con, which is a bad idea if you know me, where I'm just kind of like, I want that and that and that and that and that and that. So you might see some crazy shit going on when it comes to me at the Mo Game Con. Probably a good idea to keep a camera on me the whole time because shit's going to go down. And I cannot be held responsible because I get lost in the moment. So we'll see how that goes. But definitely there's going to be a pretty big recent pickups video or live stream at the end of this month too. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so maybe next week I'll start doing these new video game collection streams again. Until then, I am Chris, the old-ass retro gamer, signing off. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe. Talk to you next time.